a lot of, what I've experienced in the corporate space is men have to act a certain way. And I think this goes for everybody, but, just because I'm a man, I can see it maybe a little bit differently than for a woman. But they have to act a certain way. They have to carry themselves in this, sometimes stoic, or they've got to be really like animated and get into things. And a lot of the times what ends up happening is they forget about themselves and they lose track of like, you can have masculine energy and feminine energy and still be a leader or still, be a, what have you. So, um, when I look at that.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Wynn, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, and even $100,000 weeks. Before Purple Circle, I've grown several 7- and 8-figure career coaching businesses myself, and have been a consultant at 2 career coaching businesses that are doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Career Coaching Secrets podcast. I'm your host, Rexhen, and today's guest is Brent McCann. He is a mindset coach, retreat leader, and former HR pro turned full-time guide for personal transformation. After more than a decade coaching leaders inside corporate walls, stepped into his own mission, helping people reconnect with their purpose, shift limiting beliefs, and live with deeper authenticity. Through his work at Fulfillment Finders, Brent blends mindset, breathwork, and somatic healing to support those ready to break through the noise and rediscover who they really are. And it's a pleasure for me to have him on the podcast today. Welcome to the show, Brent.
Thank you, Reg. It's a pleasure to be here, man.
It's a pleasure for us to get you on the podcast. I wanted to, for any coach out there that is thinking of starting their own coaching business, so they might be doing coaching already, either on their full-time job, or they're a coach for like either universities, or they just haven't made that shift yet. I wanted to know, from your perspective, what got you to start this? What inspired you to become a coach and then start your own coaching business?
Yeah, it's a great question. Coaching has always kind of been with me. It was something that when I was in high school I actually wanted to go to school, college to teach. And so there was this innate part of me that always enjoyed that. And as I went through this very colorful background in my early 20s and mid 20s, it was still kind of there, but I just didn't really pay attention to it. And I was a late bloomer. I got my college degree when I was, oh my gosh, like 29 or 30 years old. And, I really started to get serious about my career and where I saw things going within human resources. And I really enjoyed it in the beginning. Even towards the end, I enjoyed it. And I was at an event 2 years ago out in Austin, Texas, and it was just about how you find fulfillment in life. And I was at a point in my life where like I was at this amazing conference like 3 or 4 months before out in Vegas and was really doing some soul searching. And I'm sitting in this event. There's about 100 people there. And in the midst of this, I'm listening to the leader talk to somebody one-on-one in front of everybody. And it brought me to tears. And what brought me to tears was the compassion that I was witnessing between two people who didn't even know each other. And in that moment, I remember sitting there and I looked at my friend who was next to me and I just said, this is what I want to do with my life. I want to coach people. I want to lead some type of events or retreats, but I just don't know how it's going to happen or when it's going to happen. And so, it really was something where as that became, it was one of those, like, it's a dream, but I don't know how it's going to happen. But then I started to take really targeted action towards that dream. And so the company that I was working for, they paid for me to get certain certifications with communication. And I took it upon myself to get other certifications on my own. And then I started to actually create like a monthly leadership series with my mid-level managers. That I was a senior HR manager, and we had about 20 managers that I worked with, that I was a business partner to. And so really what we looked at was, how can I create a plan of how to coach these people, both one-on-one, but in a group setting as well? And how can I use that literally so that it can be like a springboard into my own business? Because ultimately that's what I wanted to do, is I wanted to get into that space of working with people without the corporate rules per se. I wanted to have that freedom to work with people and not always have to have the HR hat. So, it just so happened that I made a really good financial investment in real estate last year, and it left me enough of a cushion for me to really jump into this full bore and do a full send to find out what's on the other side if I were to start my own business. I'm 2, 3 months out right now, having left corporate. It's really exciting. And, I'm grateful that in less than 2 years, really, the dream that I had has come to fruition.
So far in these 2 to 3 months, and we were talking about this earlier, you're currently working with your clients. Part of that coaching journey do you find the most rewarding since you started doing this, since you started working with clients?
Yeah. So I've done a few things. I have a client right now. I also just finished my first. I led a men's retreat less than a month ago out in Sedona, Arizona, for 6 amazing men spread out throughout the entire U.S. And whether it's coaching one on one, whether it's facilitating retreats, what's most rewarding for me is seeing the change. It's seeing the light bulb that turns on by asking the right question or creating the right environment for them to actually reflect. And when that moment happens, to me, there's no more. It's so fulfilling to me because it's like, oh man, like I've been there before. I know how that feels. I know what they're feeling. And then when I get to see them apply it in their lives, and they're like, I did a couple free clients, and I had this guy. He's from Southern Louisiana. Well, Louisiana. And he's 24 years old. He's an engineer, but he's working for Amazon and he's trying to get more into the engineering space. And so we worked together for 6 weeks. And he called me the other day. And one of his goals was to get his own apartment and conquer some like credit card debt or whatever. And he calls me. He's like, Brent, you won't believe it. I thought I was going to be like 6 months out until I get into an apartment, but I've got one now. Like I'm out of my house. And oh, yeah, by the way, I took care of this credit card debt and I'm going to go and I'm going to sign up for this engineering degree certificate thing to get. And this is a guy who was like so quiet in the beginning when we were talking. And now he's reaching out to me and he's sharing like a month later after we finished our calls. Like that's what drives me and that's what inspires me because it's not about me. It's about people realizing their own potential and actually stepping into that. That's when the magic happens. And that's when I get fired up. Like I'm super pumped right now just talking about it.
Oh, amazing. And what would you say is the ideal client you'd like to work with in your coaching business or that you feel like you could make the most impact with?
Absolutely. I think for me, men is my passion because a lot of what I've experienced in the corporate space is men have to act a certain way, and I think this goes for everybody. But just because I'm a man, I can see it maybe a little bit differently than for a woman. But they have to act a certain way. They have to carry themselves in this, sometimes stoic, or they've got to be really like animated and get into things. And a lot of the times, what ends up happening is they forget about themselves and they lose track of like you can have masculine energy and feminine energy and still be a leader or still be a what have you. So um, when I look at that, for me, my ideal client is really that person that's probably, in their 30s all the way up until their 60s. They're looking at opportunities to better themselves. They've had success and they've realized that even with that success, there's still more. It's like I think about, there's like this call that still happens in the middle of the night that wakes them up because they know that they're meant to do more and they're meant to experience more. And, those are the people that I'm really looking for. Like men, 110%, because a lot of the times we're told like, you've got to have the money, you've got to have the house, the wife or the partner, you've got to have the car, you've got to have all these material things. And when we get it, I've had this happen. When I get it, I'm left saying, okay, well, what's next? And it's because I'm not finding the fulfillment, right? So looking for that for others, that's really my ideal client.
Would you like to explain a little bit more for anyone's listening that would be interested?
For sure. Yeah, for sure. Now, what we look at is we try to find a balance between like what I would call like the woo woo. Like we're not going to go out and have to walk barefoot outside on the grass to get grounding, but we're also not going to get so caught in our heads about what we do that we like overanalyze things, right? So I find this balance like with neuroscience and understanding like the first thing we have to understand is like what's going on between our two ears. How does the brain function? Why does it function this way? And to recognize that we're not broken. Right? The default mode network of our brain is real. When we try to change things, it's trying to protect us and it's saying, no, 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 don't do it. Right. So the first step is the awareness. The second step is, what is it that we want to change? Get really clear on an intention. And the intention can change through the evolution of the coaching experience. But getting clear on one thing is a great anchor. Now you've got the route planned out, or at least the destination, and now you're going to figure out the route to get there, right? So we're going to talk about like, okay, what is the intention? And then what we're going to look at is what are the things that need to change so that we can get to that destination. And understanding that we don't have to, like, I don't force people to, I'm not like you've got to do it this way. You got like, whatever way is going to work for you, whatever way vibes with you in a manner that like you're excited. And even though it's hard, you're still inspired to do it. I'm all game for that. So, we're going to look at understanding what the brain does. We're going to understand what obstacles are in our way as to what we want to change. We're going to get that real clear intention, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to step into it. And there's different ways, modalities that I use. Meditation is a huge one for me. We do a lot of breath work too. So, every session we're going to start with an opening breath work just to reset our nervous system. I also offer more in-depth breath work to help us get beyond some of the emotions of our past that we hang on to. Because if we hang on to those emotions, well, then they're acting like that backpack that's going to hold us back and prevent us from getting into that future experience that we're really driving toward. And along those same lines. So we'll do some breath work tied to that, and then a lot of really just like grow work and that type of thing to help move forward in a supportive and loving way. Because listen, if we could have done it already ourselves, we would have done it. But the reality is we need somebody there with us. And a lot of the times that inner critic within us is talking a lot of trash and is saying how we're not able to do it or we've failed in our past. And when you have somebody who is a coach, that's someone that can come alongside you, support you, and inspire and lead you towards where you're going, that's really where the change happens. So, it's just a high overview of what we look at. Of course, it can evolve to various different things too over the course of 3, 6, 12 months.
Absolutely. And actually, as you were explaining that, I was thinking when it comes to like having a coach versus thinking of doing it on your own, the difference is just like you said, you would have already done it. But the thing is, you are not usually able to see what your problem could be. A coach might be able to see that better than you. Sometimes you only like even when you're thinking about, sometimes people want to get creative and like you can use ChatGPT or anything like that. Even ChatGPT will not be able to understand anything other than what you're telling it to. So it's not going to read behind the lines. It's only going to understand what you understand. It's not going to go deeper than that. So a coach might be able to understand the issue on a deeper level and be able to maybe give some, I don't know if we would say guidance, but basically trigger thoughts into your brain that would potentially give that aha moment for these types of clients. So yeah, that makes
Exactly.
a lot of sense.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, it's all about the question, right? How you phrase the question. And I think a lot of it too is like, how do you tune in to the person that you're working with? No, it's not just a transactional relationship. When you're coaching somebody, they're making a big financial investment in their future and they're expanding a lot of trust into you. So if you can, if you can meet them where they are and really tune in and say, okay, like, here's something I could ask, not trying to lead them down the path of like, this is what I think it is, but just as asking those open-ended questions of exploration, it really opens up more opportunities than I think even me as a coach and other coaches that I've talked to, what we think is possible, right? It becomes endless at that juncture.
So basically, what triggers these thoughts is the right question at the right time, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, man. And not being afraid to ask the question, right? Like asking the hard questions as a coach to your clients. There's a reason it's a hard question. But you have to remember that it's bigger than me as the coach. My ego doesn't come into play here. I'm here for a specific reason. And I've had these conversations with clients. I've had these conversations in the corporate space, and they're hard. But the reason why that person's there is because they want to change. And so it's just being open to, okay, what is that right question at that right time? And how do we pull this in together in a way that allows the person to feel safe enough to explore? I think that's a really key part.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And right now, with your coaching business, I also wanted to talk just a little bit about marketing. And we touched a little bit at the beginning. You said right now it's not what most people generally do. So I'd like to learn more about what's working for you right now.
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, what like I didn't use Instagram or anything. Like I use LinkedIn mainly because of corporate life, right? You have it. But But I didn't have like Instagram really until like January of this year, right? 2025. So 7 months ago, 6 months ago is when I started using it. I found some pretty good success, a lot more success in Instagram than I have with LinkedIn. I think a lot of the times it's two different markets. But also, I found that like with LinkedIn, people are not as quick to respond to certain things, especially if they're vulnerable things about, maybe I feel inadequate in certain areas or I want to grow in different areas in my lives and in my life that typically may not be spoken about. So I may say to somebody, like, I've got a post that's going to come out in the future that's going to talk about men and affirmations, and like they're not a bad thing to use, right? We'll have it both on LinkedIn and Instagram, but I will have a better response on Instagram because like it's more of an open space to do that, whereas LinkedIn's a little bit more professional, a little bit more uptight at times. Not to dig on LinkedIn, but they're a little bit more business like. So I've used both. I like Instagram more. And then the other thing that I tend to use is I truly believe that we're all here to serve each other in some capacity. And so, you know, I follow where the energy goes. If I get energized at the thought of leading a men's retreat and seeing men's lives change because they finally could step beside their own, shenanigans and expand and grow in ways that they didn't expect, well, then I'm going to pull on that string and I'm going to explore it. And I believe that when we follow our passions and we follow our energy, the universe, God, the creator, whatever it is going to provide people that are a match to that. And otherwise, like my retreat wouldn't have made sense. I didn't have this following. I didn't know, this is the first, I'd done like corporate retreats before, but like I've never done one on my own. And yet like 6, 7 random guys that don't even know each other, we still were able to get connected. So I don't follow the mentality of like twist the knife in the back, let make the prospect feel their pain to a point where they feel like they just have to do something. I don't do that. I look at it more from the lens of how can I provide support? How can I add value to you? And maybe that you don't become a client right away, but you will become maybe a client a year from now or 3 years from now. But the point is like, it's like Maya Angelou said, people won't remember the words you said. They're going to remember how you made them feel. And so that's really like my marketing. That's what I do. How do I add value to somebody? And if it works out that I get a client, fantastic. If not, that's okay. I'm still going to show up and do that have that modus operandi every day.
Thank you. Thank you, Brent. And right now for the future, do you have any goals that you're working towards with your coaching business, let's say for 1 to 3 years from now?
Absolutely. So I have three pillars or three legs to my business. The first that I'm most passionate about is retreat facilitating. Right? So I'm building a second retreat right now that's going to be out in Austin, Texas, in October of this year. I'm already planning the next. I'm looking at 6 to 8 retreats next year, a mix between men only and then some co-ed retreats as well. So, that's the first pillar is the retreats. Second pillar is I'm actually going to a training. Unfortunately, I can't disclose the type of training that I'm going to next week, but it's for a globally well-known figure, and it's really to become more of a corporate trainer. Right. So with my corporate background, it really is wonderful. So I want to get more into the coaching space through the corporate retreats and corporate coaching facilitating. The third step there, the third pillar is really going back into the coaching. And so, as I look at like, what does my future hold? Like, I would love to have, 10, 15, 20 clients next year. I don't need to have a bunch. What I want to do is I want to have the critical few that are really, I'm going to be able to add the value to. And then when I think about that from a financial standpoint, right, like I want to be where I was in my corporate job at least. And I recognize that, it takes a lot of momentum and takes a lot of, energy to get that going. So that's what it is right now is, the next 6 months for me is a full send into what does next year look like? And then focusing on these three pillars and trusting that this is going to work out. Like I don't have to force the outcome. I can just be an active participant in creating that future.
What is a challenge right now with you that you're trying to solve for in the coaching in your
The biggest challenge right now is that inner critic. Honestly, that's it. When it comes down to, am I good enough? Can I do this? What will people think? How can I be better? All those things. And those are the things right now that are the biggest challenge. Because when I stepped into being an entrepreneur and running my own business and realized like it's all on me, now I'm face to face with myself. I can learn how to market. I'm learning how to market. I can learn how to communicate with people better. I could build training programs and all of that kind of stuff. But in the end, it's what's my mindset going to be when I wake up every morning and I sit in front of my computer, or if I'm getting on an airplane to travel somewhere, how am I going to show up? And am I going to let that inner critic rule me that day and tell me how terrible I am or not good enough or inadequate? Or am I going to tune into the part of me that believes in my future so much that I can feel it, I can taste it, and as a result, I'm going to believe in it, I'm going to behave as it, and I'm going to become that future. So there's kind of like this like struggle. Some days are great, some days are not so great, but I keep showing up to the ring, and if we have to go 12 rounds, we'll go 12 rounds.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Brent. Final question is, what advice would you give to other coaches just like yourself who are also getting started, who are looking to scale their impact?
Follow the energy. Follow what inspires you. The opportunity to create from a blank canvas. We don't have to follow the modality of what the corporate jobs have said or what our previous experience said. We can create anything and everything. And so I firmly believe that where we place our attention is where we place our energy. We follow that breadcrumb trail or whatever it's called. We pull on that string, whatever phrase you want to put on it. You will find your passion. And maybe it's going to take a little bit of time to make money, but keep showing up because it's your passion. And I truly believe that there will be a point where the money will come, the challenges will be different, and you will just keep going, but just follow your energy, follow what inspires you. Because I truly believe that when you have that inspiration, you have that energy, it's because there's people out there that need it. And there's people out there that are going to benefit from you taking this leap, taking this, and that they'll benefit from it. And as a result, you're going to be fulfilled too. Like it's amazing. You get fed, they get fed, everybody's happy.
Thank you so much, Brent. And for anyone who wants to find you or connect with you, they can go, one of them is go to LinkedIn, Brent McCann. They'll be able to find your profile there. They will also be able to find your link tree where they can go into Instagram, TikTok, or even I feel WhatsApp, I can see here. And they will also be able to see more information about you and even potentially schedule a discovery call with you. Is there any other way people could reach out to you?
Yeah, if you just visit, if you visit my website, it's fulfillmentfinders.com. That'll be my parent website that offshoots to the coaching as well as the retreat space.
Cool. Thank you. And we'll also make sure to put that on the screen as well. Thank you so much for coming today, Ben. It's been a pleasure having you on the podcast.
Thanks, Rexhen. Thank you so much.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This podcast was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, or even $100,000 weeks, all without burning out and making sure that you're making the impact and having the life that you want. To learn more about our community and how we can help you, visit joinpurplecircle.com.